By the hoary house of Hogarth, I have seen the Doctor Strange film, and I conjure this vlog so that all may know my thoughts. Hi everyone, welcome back to Comic Book Issues. I'm your host, the Last Angry Geek, and I just saw the Doctor Strange movie, and we're going to talk about it in this vlog. I've never been a huge Doctor Strange fan. I'm enjoying the current series by Jason Aaron and Chris Botchelo, but I've never been that invested in the character, so just know that going into this vlog. I recognize that this was a competently done movie. I enjoyed it, but I would have to say it was good, not great. There were problems with it. Unfortunately, I feel like the biggest problem with Doctor Strange was the character of Stephen Strange. So with that in mind, let's start reviewing the cast. We'll start with Doctor Strange, as played by Benedict Cumberbatch. Unfortunately, I felt like he was written as Tony Stark light for this movie. He was the flawed, arrogant genius who has to learn a lesson in humility before he's able to give back. Although in Iron Man that was done fairly quickly in the course of the movie, this one it takes almost the whole movie, at least the first 3 quarters, before he's finally ready to start protecting humanity. I appreciate the physical performance Benedict did with the hands and stuff. I mean, he really made you believe, like, you know, he'd lost his ability to operate. You could see the kind of desperation he had to gain back what he'd lost, which is not something Tony ever went through, admittedly. But it just, I've never felt Doctor Strange was a funny character. So, I don't know, a lot of the jokes in this one just fell flat on me. It's like every time he cracked a joke, and it was like, you know, dead silence. It's like, you know, you don't go to a Doctor Strange movie to laugh. But just the jokes didn't seem to work for me. Like I said, I felt like they were trying too much to make him Tony Stark. Here's the jokes. Here's the flawed relationship with the girl I really care about. Here's me being arrogant and a jerk, but I really want to help people now that I've learned this lesson. You know, we've seen it before, essentially. One of the aspects I liked that they explored that I hadn't really considered before was like doctors turning down patients so that they could keep their stats up. It's like, they're not baseball players. They took a Hippocratic oath to help people. But, you know, there's scenes where Strange and even his friends later don't want to help him or take on operations that they can't succeed at because they want to keep being regarded as this medical genius. So I enjoyed the medical exploration of Strange's life. I like that they didn't just shove that aside as soon as he broke his hands. They kept referring to him as a doctor, not as a doctor of magic, but a doctor in the physical sense, a physician, a surgeon. Benedict responded well to the whole magic, you know, the whole kind of trip where he's flown through space and time, and he's fallen, but he stops, sees the butterfly. I mean, his reactions were good. That said, this is the origin movie, so sometimes you got to get through the origin movie to get the character to where you expect to see him. I would hope in sequels that he's more serious, because I think a Doctor Strange movie that sells itself with the action, the weird creatures, you know, the different dimensions and stuff. You don't necessarily have to have the wisecracking Doctor Strange. I don't want to make it sound like I was disappointed with the humor because I didn't expect it for this character. I was disappointed with the humor because it just really didn't work. Let's move on to the Ancient One, as played by Tilda Swinton. There was a lot of accusations of whitewashing because the Ancient One is like this 1,000-year-old Mongolian sorcerer or Chinese sorcerer. I forget which nationality he is. And to a point, I think that's valid, but Tilda Swinton did a good job. They created this character around her, and she imbued it with a nice performance. She was kind of like this dry wit, but she's also a little gun-shy. She sees too much of Strange in this student who's betrayed her, so she doesn't want to teach him. She's telling people to do one thing, but she does another, and that kind of bites her in the ass. I mean, there's flaws there. That said, nothing in the performance said it had to be played by an Asian guy, but nothing said it couldn't be played by a white, bald Celtic woman. Tilda nicely portrayed a sense of responsibility for the magic for her students. That said, all controversies aside, Tilda gave a good performance. Again, not great, good. No one in this movie gave a bad performance, with maybe one exception. Wong is played by Benedict Wong, and that might have... You wonder if that created some problems on the set. Hey, Wong! Yeah? No, we're talking to you in your character move. Don't tell you... Oh, okay. I don't know. Probably not. It seems like his only purpose was to not get Doctor Strange's jokes, so... And then to have the big laugh at the end, so that was kind of like a... He was kind of a running gag, I guess. If he is indeed the Wong who becomes Strange's manservant, I hope they do more with him in the next movie. Or I hope maybe it'll turn out his son becomes Doctor Strange's manservant, the son we didn't see or hear mentioned in this movie, because then you can have the younger martial arts kung fu guy. He looks like the guy you have to beat to get into the temple in one of those kung fu movies. Wong didn't really have much to do in this film other than act as a kind of foil to Strange's humor. Speaking of the only disappointing performance, as I mentioned earlier, let's talk about Mads Mikkelsen, who played Caecilius. Can we not get a decent villain in these Marvel movies besides Loki? Although Zemo in Civil War was pretty decent. Unfortunately, we're going to have to place Mads among Lee Pace and Christopher Eccleston for Marvel's league of visually interesting but otherwise boring villains. Here's another guy who's got a great look, but didn't really do much. He never got angry, he never got sad or happy. He just seemed mildly annoyed all the time. And I'm not sure why they went with that choice. You know, you want a good villain who's memorable, makes the speeches, who's diabolical, but he's like, "Oh, hello, Mr. Doctor." Yeah, okay, that was okay. This is such a subdued performance, I have to think he was just showing up for the paycheck and wasn't even a choice. We need a more interesting villain in the Marvel Universe, which leads me to Baron Mordo, as played by, forgive me as I mangle this, Chiwetel Ejiofor. In the comics, Mordo starts out as a fellow pupil of the Ancient One, then becomes Strange's greatest rival. So I like that that's where this film ends, with that rivalry beginning. That makes it a good origin. We get to finally see how the guys were friends. Not just a couple minutes of Dr. Doom and Mr. Fantastic working together in college. Not just a reference to, he was my best friend. You know, we actually get to see it for the whole movie. And it's Mordo who gets him in. It's Mordo who believes in him. I wish we'd been able to see a little bit of his past, this violent past and this quest for power that led him to the Ancient One, and eventually abandoning those ambitions because he believes in the Ancient One. I mean, we can see the results of that when he finds out the Ancient One has been taking her immortality from the Dark Dimension, he feels so betrayed, and finally at the end he's like, we broke all the rules to get here, I can't do this anymore. He was one of the few people who had a character arc, to be honest. I'm not even sure Strange did. It was because it was kind of so last. I just want to be healed. I just want to be healed. I just want to be healed. I'm a magician now. No, I really found Mordo to be the most interesting character in this movie. This is how you build a good villain. You set him up. You set up this friendship. You set up this trust. And then there's a betrayal. And then we saw in the very second end credit scene that he's now going around taking out all the other sorcerers. It's like, you know, he's adopted the Sith code. Only 2 there are, except only 1, you know. It's like there's too many people using magic. I'm going to get rid of them. So now he'll be the magic hunter. Now he'll come for Stephen Strange and they can have their big battles. And that I'm looking forward to. Because I think this movie did a lot of good setting up what Doctor Strange is supposed to be. And I hope that pays off in the second film. Rachel McAdams, who played Dr. Christine Thompson. Hey, it's White Claire! She was essentially that character. Okay, not a nurse, she's a doctor, but yeah. Here's the character suddenly thrust into all this weirdness around her, but still trying to help people medically and take care of them. I mean, that's Claire from all the Netflix shows, come on. The romance, or I think it was even a non-romance, didn't really seem necessary. I want a superhero film where it focuses on one character and there to be no romance. Not every Captain America needs a Peggy. Not every Iron Man needs a Pepper. I don't feel like the romance, or again, lack of romance, brought anything to the table other than it allowed the filmmakers to show Strange being a jerk. Even after he breaks his hands, he's still kind of an asshole. But you know, I don't feel like Christine really brought anything to the movie other than, I think once Strange accepts magic, then she becomes our gateway character. It's through her we're now observing the magic world and getting her reactions. Like, once he's accepted magic and it's not weird or strange to him, the movie uses Christine to comment on how weird and strange it is, so then he can explain it to her, and we can get that exposition out there. She's an exposition device, essentially. Those are the only characters I felt like talking about. As for the film itself, there were a few things I didn't get. The Ancient One is taking magic from the Dark Dimension to stay alive, and everyone says, oh, you have to pay a price, you have to pay a price, and then she dies. That's not a price. When you live for thousands of years, then you eventually die. That's not the cost of staying alive. It's a consequence of not using the magic anymore. It's, you know, it's like the cost of staying young and immortal should be a magic picture that gets uglier as you stay young. That's a cost. I mean, you know, having to steal youth from other people to stay young, that's a cost. It's not dying is not a cost. It's just the inevitable consequence of mortality. And they didn't really explain why it was wrong of her to do this, other than it's a rule and she broke the rule, so she and Steven now have something in common, because sometimes you have to break the rules to do good. And shows that both she and Steven think outside the box. And I don't think he was made Sorcerer Supreme at the end of the film, but that's where it will lead in the second one, I'm sure. A fight over the title between him and Mordo. I keep doing this. These are the hand symbols he does in the comics all the time. I'm not rocking out to heavy metal. In the current Jason Aaron, Chris Botchell comic, they really explore the price of magic, what Strange and other people have to do to pay for the magic they use. And here it's just, everyone's saying there's a cost, there's a cost, there's a cost, and we never really see that. So I'm hoping that's one of the things they explore in the next one. As far as cosmic villains go, I will say Dormammu was better than Galactus in Rise of the Silver Surfer. Okay, he's just a giant head at the end, but they got the effect right, that whole kind of lines of burning fire thing. And at least he got a few lines. So I like Dormammu. I wish we'd see more of him, or maybe he'll be back in the next one. I liked that Strange catches him in that time loop. That's how he beats him. It's like, yeah, you can keep killing me, but you're not going to get what you want. That was clever. I liked that ending. That's what I liked best about Strange. Let's go back a bit, because this is what I forgot. I like that he doesn't want to hurt people. He's still trying to live up to that Hippocratic oath of do no harm. So he's going to find better ways to beat the bad guys than killing them. So I appreciated that. That was a good ending. The special effects were great. I didn't see it in 3D. I heard people should see it in 3D for the things where he's flying through space and time, and they're doing the digital stuff. In the trailers, I remarked that I felt it was too Inception-y, and there is that aspect to it at certain points, but then that's like one dimension, then they do the mirror dimension, the dark dimension, other things, and when Strange is going through the astral plane, that is a trip, man. The special effects in this film were great. They were flawless. So I can't argue that the film wasn't well produced. Overall, I'll say it again, this is a good origin story, great special effects, some good acting, some not so good acting, but I felt like it's leading towards something, so I'm sure that the second Doctor Strange film will be much better than this one. I liked it. Let me say that again. I'm going to get Guardians of the Galaxy on this. I liked this movie. I enjoyed it. Go see it. You'll enjoy it. But that said, I don't feel a need to see it again. I'm not going to get the DVD when it comes out or Blu-ray. I've seen it. He's in the Marvel Universe. Let's move on. But sometimes, I like the second film better than I like the first one. Captain America is a great point. I was not a fan of the first Captain America, but I loved The Winter Soldier. Winter Soldier, I think, is still my favorite Marvel film. So let's see where they go with Doctor Strange. He should show up in Thor Ragnarok. If you saw the one scene that I probably just spoiled. But I'm sure going forward, they're going to do great things with this character. And Benedict Cumberbatch is a good actor. I'm sure he'll find his groove with Strange. I just felt like the humor, arrogance, and all that, he just felt like they were trying to do Tony Stark over again, and I don't think that's who Doctor Strange is. So I am looking forward to his next appearance. I'm looking forward to the next Doctor Strange film. That said, I will see you back here. The next vlog will probably be for, is it Thor? No, Wonder Woman. Until then, this is Comic Book Issues, and I'm your host, The Last Angry Geek.